It's not a question pace. It's not a question if you're 85% a lot of the time. It's a question of what criteria do you match in that category when we talk about it in the context of the three categories: 85%, 10%, 5%. And that matters a lot. So don't think that I only build with 5%, right? I build all day long with 85%. And I got a lot of love for people that match the criteria that fall into that category of 85%, right? And we know exactly what it is. The uncivilized people, poison animal eaters, slave to mental, death, and power, who do not know who the almighty, true, and living God is or their origins in this world. So they worship that they know not what. Easily led in the wrong direction, hard to be led in the right direction. And that's 8 pieces right there that you got to look at. And if you match any one of them, I, in my mind and in my heart, put you into that category. But it doesn't mean that because you worship that you know not what, that I deem you as uncivilized by like the Webster's dictionary. That's bullshit. A lot of people got, what's the meaning of civilization? One having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, is not a savage in the pursuit of happiness, right? So if a lot of people in that 85% category match the Webster's dictionary of what a civilized person is. And even in our definition, they might have refinement, right? Not a savage in the pursuit of happiness, right? They might have a lot of things going for them where I could build with them, unite with them, work together on something with them as a person, have utmost and deep respect for them, even if they believe in that mystery God. But if they believe in that mystery God, they are of the 85%. By definition, right? So you already know what the meaning of an uncivilized person is, because un just means not. And we know what civilized means, right? Poison animal eaters. Does that just mean people that eat pig, that doesn't follow certain dietary laws, that doesn't cross every T and dot every I when they read To Eat to Live volume 1 and 2? Or could it also mean the people that constantly consume the wrong foods on purpose all the time, right? And so, you are what you eat. And that goes from all types of media. If you're constantly in the act of consuming that food, you're a poison animal eater. And that's the second criteria in the category. I know religious people with serious religious belief live their life for their own volition, right? And when they say something and when they put all that hard work, that blood, sweat, and tears, it comes from the heart to get something accomplished for the babies, for the community, right? I don't see it as some mystery God in the sky doing the work. When they do that work, I choose to see that as their highest self being present, them having a connection with the best part of themselves. And right where that effort went, that effort came from the heart. It came from the right place. It came from the holy city Mecca, and it came from Arabia, who do not know who the true and living God is, nor their origins in this world. So they worship that. They know not what. So that's 3 of them right there. Who do not know who the true and living God is, nor their origins in this world. As a result, cause and effect. So they worship that. They know not what. So a lot of people decide to make a hodgepodge or a mixture where they don't want to let go of the mystery God, but they want to see, they want to connect with that God in the human, whether it's another person or themselves. Do they know who that true and living God is? Only they could answer that question, right? Only they can sort through their doubts and their beliefs and come up with some kind of a conclusion. So my answer to that, some people do know. Some people in the 85 category do know who the true and living God is, and some don't. And their origins in this world, right? And that doesn't just mean their genetic lineage origins in this world, but your origins in this world of what made you who you are. Was it a series of different traumas throughout your life? Was it a series of different grudges? Is it something that's happening in the present? It gets difficult, awkward, and it feels bad to say, hey, here's this person, man, this devoutly religious person is doing all the right things, right, in life, right, in their community. They're doing all the right things. But if they worship that, they know not what, right? If they're dealing with belief instead of knowledge, which is literally the first thing in the supreme mathematics, is the first thing in the 12 joules, is the first thing in the 1 to 10, right? And if we break down any of the ones, we could find that knowledge. Who made the Holy Quran and Bible? How long ago? Would you tell us why does Islam renew our history every 25,000 years? Can you point out to me so I can listen, look, listen, observe, also respect what you're dealing with? Not really. It's not the early 1930s anymore, right? So the primary way of keeping people blind, right? The primary way of keeping people's minds focused off what's best for them and having them realize their true potential isn't necessarily anymore the Christian religion with the blue-eyed Jesus and this and that. The distraction and the misdirection isn't coming from the exact same place that it was coming from 90 years ago, right? There's layers to this. If you fit the characterization of any one of those 8 character categories in that overall overarching category of 85%, then to me, you're 85. And I don't necessarily mean that as an insult, right? Because the 85 around me, many are responsible for doing great things for the kids in the community. And I can't turn my head away from that. But it doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean that they can show and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what they believe. And that's important too. But I also think it's wrong, right? To take a person like I just described, a good person like I just described, and because they have beliefs that they're dedicated to, categorize them exactly as the same thing as an uncivilized person. Because many of these people I just described have culture, have refinement, and are not a savage in the pursuit of happiness, right? So that category has a capacity of 85%. So because I might look at somebody whose behavior is uncivilized or savage and call them an 85, and also a person who's extremely devout, call them an 85, doesn't mean I see them as the same type of person. And I can only be responsible for how I see things. Then there's context that we've got to really take seriously. And I'll tell you why, right? Who's the 10%? Rich slave makers of poor, teach poor lies, believe the almighty true and living God is a spook in the sky, cannot be seen with the physical eye, otherwise known as bloodsucker of the poor. Right? I can't build with them in any categorization, in any criteria of that category. I don't build with 10%. Who's the 5% in this poor part of the planet Earth? Poor righteous teachers who do not believe in the teachings of 10%, who are all wise and know who the almighty true and living God is, and teach that the almighty true and living God is the Son of Man, supreme being, black man in Asia, and teach freedom, justice, and equality to all the human families of the planet Earth, otherwise known as civilized people, also Muslims and Muslim sons. And that makes up the context for those three categories that we're talking about, right? And the context is stretchy. It's not carved in stone. It was meant to be universal, right? Picked apart and understood, right? And so that way you could gain an understanding from not only knowing it, but living it out. It says right in the 120 that categorization is important. It says that we've got to get the order right. Why do you think when you're looking at certain degrees, we've got to know the difference between holy and greatest and only and holy and greatest? We got to go in the 28th degree and know the difference between the doctors, the ministers, the nurses, and the cremators, and not necessarily always in that order. If you fall into that category, the 5%, you're always going to have 95% of the population, where you're going to have a hard time. And when I say hard time, I don't mean a hard time like a difficult, regretful experience, but you're going to have a hard time connecting the truth with their belief, right? And if some people aren't going to be tolerant of the truth, the awareness of this model is useful to anybody because I see it everywhere. Peace.